24/7, 365. The fantasy season never dies. Welcome to Every Day is Draft Day. Presented by Champions Round.
Up, everyone. Welcome to Every Day is Draft Day. We are going to preview the Eagles Giants. If you haven't caught on to our apparel and Dan's creepy hat, we're just going to break down this game. I'm a Giants fan. Dan's an Eagles fan. You can tell from the Eagle Dan FF. Interesting game that we're about to have. We're also going to give you some of our player props once we talk about how we think this game's going to go and how my team's probably going to take a nice ass beating. But Dan, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm sad that you think that this hat is creepy. I am very proud of this hat.
It's creepy and I like it better than the cheese heads that the Packers wear. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, it's just a block of cheese on their head.
Yeah, that's not usually the vibe. All right, this game's going to be, anytime it's a NFC East game, you never know what you're going to get. These two teams, they're 2-2. Eagles have lost at MetLife and then won at home. Playing in MetLife, this line opened under a touchdown. Eagles are now favored by a touchdown. Totals at 44.5. What's your initial read on this game?
I think that a lot of people, based on how both teams have played recently, predict the Eagles to win big, but I just don't see that ever happening. I think that this rivalry, it's really hard in any NFC East game to blow the other team out.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the Giants are just too well coached to let that kind of thing happen, especially since they tied last week against Washington. They're going to be looking to play for their playoff lives, so to speak. So I really expect them to get their best effort, and to think that the Eagles will beat them by some of these crazy totals that people say they are. I just don't see it happening.
I know there's a lot of takes. I have my thing with the Giants too is they need to stay in this game throughout. Did you get too hot? The Eagle was hot.
It's hot.
Take the hat off. Okay, it was getting too warm in here. The Giants need to stay in this game and not let the Eagles get a big lead, because I think that's just gonna kill them. They have to keep up some momentum. I think their pass rush. People probably are not watching Giants games. A lot of people do not watch Giants games. I do, because I like to torture myself, and I unfortunately I don't have a choice at this point. The New York Giants pass rush looked much better with Aziz. It's a huge test against the Eagles O-line, which is next to perfect. It doesn't get much better than the Eagles O-line. These teams they match up a little well. I keep hearing, and I've said it myself too. I'm contradicting what I've said. The Eagles have shown weaknesses, yes. But when I say weaknesses, it's not like their weaknesses don't compare to the weaknesses of the Giants. We might be weak at stopping the run, and the Eagles might be weak at stopping the run, but not in the same way. They're two totally different things. But I think of this game, we're going to see a lot of running in this game. I think that Miles Sanders, another big game. I'll talk about him later. He's one of my props. I think if the Giants want to have success, they got to get Saquon going, and it's not run him up the middle nonstop every single play. You have to get creative. Brian Dable and Kafka are going to have to go into their little toolbox and find plays that are creative, but you cannot go out there and have a vanilla game plan. The last couple of weeks have been just interesting, but you're playing the number 2 scoring offense in the NFL, the number 5 total rushing offense. And the Giants rush offense has been respectable this season. Saquon's kind of slowed down. He tends to pick things up when he does play enough games that we can use it even around week 13. So I think a big thing is that pass rush, is the defense, which luckily for us, outside of McKinney, who just idiot. But aside from that, they're fairly healthy. They're not an impressive team on paper, literally at all. Which is why I also think I like Devontae Smith this week. Teams with 2 good wide receivers scare me against the Giants. I always get nervous. They don't have the ability to shut down a passing game. You might be able to take someone a little bit out of the equation, but it's not going to be they're only running the ball because they can't pass against this team. That shit's not going to happen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Is Adoree Jackson going to play?
It doesn't seem like it's trending that direction now. And then McKinney got his pins out, and they're saying maybe he does come back this season. I don't really know. Adoree Jackson getting hurt was just killed the momentum of that defense a little bit. I think a lot of it too is like Jalen Hurts has been next to perfect this year. He's completing 68% of his passes. He's averaging 8.2 yards per attempt, which is the second in the NFL and like an absurd number. He's also averaging like 50 yards on the ground. He also doesn't need to do that every game because his offense is so freaking efficient. And I think that if they can get pressure on him, that's the key to this. I mean, when he's pressured, you see that completion percentage come down to 43%, but he only has 3 interceptions on the season. The Giants have the least amount of interceptions on the season. So it's going to be interesting. The Giants are going to have to get creative to beat this team.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the Giants can kind of follow the Commanders plan a little bit, how we beat us, how like the reason that the Commanders beat us aside from the turnovers was the fact that they were able to get into manageable, second and third downs and to extend drives. And, the Giants offense has shown that they can do that. You have Saquon that they can, rush to on first and second down to keep it, ahead of the chains. Darius Slayton has come on in recent weeks. Isaiah Hodgins says, I mean, they're not like, no one's going to confuse these guys with like Pro Bowl, like, Justin Jefferson's or anything, but they're within the context of the Giants offense. They're definitely good enough to have that kind of game plan to give, to keep the Eagles offense off the field and to keep the game close going into the third and fourth quarter to try to steal, the game at the end of the game. So it's definitely possible if they follow that, that kind of the game plan. If the Eagles haven't adjusted from how the Commanders beat them, that they can pull this game out.
Yeah. God, I do think that the Giants cover this game. The NFC East, well, there's going to be 2 outcomes from this game. Like the Giants are going to cover or it's just not going to be a pretty game. Like those are the 2 options. Like there's really not much more. Literally only 2 outcomes, I think. The total is 44.5. I think it's came down from 45. I might be mistaken there. What do you think about that total?
What was the total?
44.5. Because you wonder, like, are both teams going to try to run the ball? So
yeah. Usually, like the Eagles Giants games are on the lower end.
Yeah. But then they've had a few where it's like 22. Like, there's a few games where like they will go over this. I don't know.
I'm going to go under actually. I'm going to go under.
That way too.
Yeah, I think it's going to be one of those like 21, like 17 kind of games. Either way, I think it's going to be like low scoring, like 24-17, something like that, where that doesn't need to be, it's not going to be like an offensive like fireworks show on either side, because they're going to be running the ball. It could be like crappy weather that day. So I just don't see it being like a 30 to 21 kind of game.
Yeah, the Giants need to play clean football, which is really scary. They actually haven't been. I will say, and knock on wood, like I shouldn't even be saying this, like their penalties have not been as bad as like I am accustomed to the last couple of years. And I think that again, like Daniel Jones has played much better than people are giving him credit. But again, like you can't go into an Eagles game against this defense and look like and just play like easy. Like you can't play high school football.
Mm-hmm. You can't play it safe.
No, you got to take risks.
Right. Exactly. What's one player that the Eagles should be worried about on the Giants offense? Besides Barkley, because Barkley is the obvious answer. Like who could have me like, pulling my hair out.
You know what the problem is with this offense is it's not scary. There's nothing scary. It's not scary. I think there's like 2 players automatically come to mind.
Right.
Kind of 3. And maybe this will segue us into our player props.
Okay. Segue.
Yeah. So I think Daniel Jones's legs are something that he's shown against the Eagles before. We all know the infamous falling on his face, running 80 whatever yards. But again, what I've seen from the Giants playbook the last couple of weeks is they're not really like, there's not a lot of run play options. Like they're not doing a lot of these plays that they were doing a lot. Maybe that changes. I don't know if they're going into each game like really trying to capitalize on what the team's weakness is. And maybe that's what they do here. Like maybe they do try to get Daniel Jones going. Maybe they give him those run play options. Maybe they have more designed runs for him, which I think is the way that they should be playing this. They're playing Daniel Jones too safe this year for a guy that's like, figure out what you have. Let him throw the ball. Let him make mistakes. It's like you have to figure it out. Stop trying to avoid the turnovers like that. It's just they're starting to play it too safe, which I hate. Outside of that, Daniel Bellinger, like for me, I think he is a key to this game. I think that, I looked back the last couple of weeks, going back to the Steelers game that you guys played. And a lot of these tight ends, like the flashier name tight ends, I'm not talking Mo Alley Cox and Roman Thomas and them, but right. A lot of these guys have actually had like really successful games against you guys, surprisingly. But no one scored a tight end hasn't scored a touchdown since that Steelers game against you guys. Right. I kind of like Daniel Bellinger to get into the end zone. His first game back last week, I think he had 5 receptions, 24 yards. And he played the second most snaps out of all tight ends in the league. That's coming off of that injury. And we saw how heavily he was involved. He wasn't putting up like very exciting numbers, but he's always on the field. And he was a consistent piece of that playbook. And I think they were heating up before he got that injury. So we'll segue into player props, which I think if you want to get spicy, you could parlay all 3 of these. I like playing any of these 3 in any order that you want. Also, if you guys are enjoying this video, make sure you subscribe and like this. We do giveaways all the time. Don't miss out on those. But back to Daniel Bellinger, okay? I like him over 20.5 receiving yards, minus 120. I think that's a smash play. I think that he had 24 last week. I think that the Eagles have, been giving up that. I mean, you gave that up to Ferguson. It wasn't the Steelers game. I think it was the Dallas game. I was wrong about the Freiermuth. Freiermuth did not score. Ferguson did. I mixed them up. Too many. You can't have long names that start with an F. All right. It's early. I had a long day. All right. Anyways, back to Bellinger. So over 20.5 receiving yards, minus 120. Over 2.5 receptions. I actually almost like more at minus 115. Mm-hmm. And then to get in the end zone, plus 500. I think there's a lot of good value on all of those numbers. I think if you play them all together, I haven't put that in and seen what number you can get. But I think that Daniel Bellinger is set to have a nice game.
Those are all really good. I can see all those happening, especially, him getting into the end zone. If they get, anywhere inside the red zone, I would expect to see Daniel Jones, target him there. So I really like all of those.
All right. You give one, and then I have a couple more. So give one, we'll jump back and forth.
All right. So I'll go one. It's actually another Giant. I actually like Isaiah Hodges to go over 27.5 receiving yards. I think that, the Giants have been looking for a consistent receiving presence all season. They shoveled through a bunch of guys, but I think, Darius Slayton has stepped up into the de facto quote one-on-one number 1 role. And then Hodges has come in and slotted into that number 2. He has been really good the past couple of weeks. And I think that the 27.5 is really low, even for everyone, thinks the Giants passing offense is trash, but I don't. I think that he will easily, eclipse that 27.5, probably by halftime, honestly.
And like we kind of talked about too, is like, in order for the Giants to stay in this game, like they have to be creative. They have to use their weapons. And I think that Isaiah Hodgins has really started to prove like he's almost exactly what you wanted. Like Kenny got, like we just needed someone to be reliable, right? And you look at his last game. Right. Wait, what was that number you
said? 27.5.
Okay. So every single game that every single game that he has played for the New York Giants, he's gone over this. 41, 29, 31, 44. Smash play. I love it. I think that is fantastic. I think they're gonna, again, like they need to do more in the passing game. I understand that the Eagles D is really good, but that's also just a low number in general.
It is. It's really low.
Yeah. That should have no problem going over. All right. For my next one, kind of talked about him earlier. Miles Sanders over 63.5 rush yards. It's going to happen. There's a chance the Giants have taken RB1s out of the equation during this season. But even when they do that, they're still getting like 50, 60. I think Miles Sanders can go over this number. I like him even to get in the end zone too. I think we see more than one rushing TD in this game. Yeah, against this Giants run D, you'll see Miles Sanders probably have a pretty big day.
Yeah, I sure hope so. But there is Boston Scott will score at least a touchdown because
yes, that was my next one. So we can even say Scott has 6 career games against the New York Giants with 8 TDs. Just for fun, like I will be playing him to score first, to score anytime, and to score 2 because it's just hilarious at this point. Like he is the absolute. I was listening to a sports gambling podcast earlier, and they called him the Giant Slayer. That's what he is. Like for some reason, this guy. I actually have so many players on bye in one of my fantasy leagues. I'm just starting him because I just happen to have him on my bench, and I'm like, maybe he'll get in the end zone. Like I don't know. I have no one else to play. It's like him or who the hell knows, Gronkowski, who's not even in the league anymore. So why not just throw him in there? He might get a couple points. So I think he is absolutely a smash. What's your next player prop for this game against the
my next player prop is actually Jack Stoll, and it's over 8.5 yards receiving, which is literally one catch. If they can get one catch over the middle, it's probably going for more than 8.5 yards. So I definitely, he's been coming along in the absence of Dallas Goedert the past couple of weeks. He had a really good catch, a couple good catches last week. So I really like him. At an 8.5 is literally, it's one reception. If I can get one reception for him,
Goddard get hurt.
That was 3 weeks ago now.
Okay, 3 weeks ago you looked
the Washington game. Yeah.
Yeah, even 3 weeks ago he was going over this. I mean, in the games that when he started playing consistently, he had 21, 13, 11, 7, and 41.
Yeah.
Against Green Bay, but still, again, these are numbers, and this is why you do this early. Like, you want to get in and get these numbers before everyone finds them, and they start getting bedded up, and you don't get that number. It turns into like 13, whatever. I like that a lot. Maybe we need to put an everyday is draft day parlay together.
We should do that.
We should. All right, my next one. I have 2 more, and then I'm done. All right.
Okay.
Jones over 34.5 rush yards. I mean, anytime this number is under 40, you're going to see me taking the over. He's been able to use his legs. I'm hoping that in this game plan to beat these Eagles is going to have to be some Daniel Jones legs. Like you're going to need to use it. And for him, this isn't a lot. Like he's doing this all the time, every game. So I love this to go over.
All right. I like that a lot too. For my last one, I'm going to go, and this is something that has been going on. I'm going to go with pretty basic one, Jalen Hurts anytime TD score. Really.
I like it. Easy.
Anytime, we're around the goal line, it goes to Kenneth Gainwell for some reason. He's our goal line back. I don't know why.
I know. It's so weird. His usage has been bizarre this year.
Right? It's so weird.
It's like, the weirdest. Talk about your hat being creepy. Like, no. Like, Kenneth Gainwell's usage is so creepy.
We won't start playing the entire drive, and then we get inside the 5-yard line, and he comes in and runs the touchdown in, and Miles Sanders
so
like, what the hell, man?
Weird. I forget that he's even like on the team.
Yeah, I might actually
we were on him in freaking fantasy this year, and it's like, what the fuck?
Yeah, it's like I might actually, change my pick to anytime TD for him for Gainwell, honestly, because it just seems like one of those games where he gets like a random touchdown that should go to someone else, like Boston Scott, for no reason.
Yeah.
So I'm actually officially changing my pick to Kenneth Gainwell at it's a plus 380 for anytime touchdown.
Love it. All right, and for my last one, Devonta Smith. Like I said kind of earlier, teams that have 2 very good wide receivers make me very nervous against this very gross secondary that the Giants have. Admittedly, they played much better last week. I think that they can put on a good performance, but Devonta Smith to go over 58.5 receiving yards. He actually doesn't do this a lot. When he does do it, he goes well over though. So I can see him clocking in this game around 75 maybe. So I definitely like him to go over this number. His receptions were a little too high for me. I think they were at 4.5. they always set his number at 4.5, and like he loves to go under this and just screw you. So not a fan of going over that number. I think we'll have to put a parlay together because some of these are some really good bets. All right, before we head out, final score prediction. Okay, 2 questions. Actually, so final prediction. And do you think the Commanders or the Giants make the playoffs?
All right, so my final score for this game, which I kind of hinted at earlier, I think it's going to be 21-17 in favor of the Eagles. I think the Giants do cover. Like I said before, I just don't think that the kind of blowout that everyone is like wanting / expecting to happen. I think that Brian Daboll has done too good of a job with this team, especially in a division game at home, to allow that to happen. So I will be surprised if it's a bigger margin than that. Saying that, however, I do think that the Giants will make the playoffs over the Commanders. I think that they started the season off really hot. They have fallen off a little bit more recently, but I really think that the Giants are gonna do better. Their schedule isn't the worst. Obviously, the game next week is really important against the Commanders.
Really important. That's why they put it into Sunday Night Football, and that's why the NFL is scripted. Right.
Yeah. So then they have the Vikings, the Colts, and then the Eagles again. But by like the last game of the season, the Eagles probably will have nothing to play for either way. I think they should beat the Colts. So really, if they can beat the Commanders next week, they can probably go, win 3 games down the stretch, and that'll be enough to make it to the playoffs. So I expect them to get.
Then they will get their ass handed to them on a silver platter in the wild card. On a silver platter, not a chance. Okay, I'm going to go 23-21 Eagles.
Ooh, 1 point. My blood pressure.
I think that the Giants are definitely, if you look at the schedule this week, they definitely could end up being the underdog winner this week, because before coming into the season, I always thought they were going to split with the Eagles. I don't care which way. It's just the way the cookie crumbles every year with this team. I don't know how I feel about the Giants making the playoffs, but that's a whole nother episode.
No, it's not. You got to answer your own question. Did the Giants make the playoffs or the Commanders? You can't avoid the question.
I mean, the Commanders make it. The Giants schedule stinks.
How does it stink?
It stinks. Commanders, Sunday Night Football. Daniel Jones has never played in prime time.
You can beat the Commanders.
Vikings on Christmas Eve.
You're losing that game. We both agree. You're losing.
And I'm going to that game, which is miserable with all Vikings.
You'll be the.
But we're sitting on the Giants side, so if we do win, listen, I'm going to be a disaster.
You'll beat the Colts.
Will we? Who knows? That seems like that is such a Giants lose this game, and then the Eagles again. So I don't know. Yeah. It's a really tough schedule. We got to get some pieces back still.
Yeah, but look at the Commander schedule. It's the Giants, and then the 49ers, which they'll lose. The Browns, which is a hard game, and then the Cowboys.
Yeah,
so the Commanders are gonna. You have a much better schedule down the stretch than the Commanders do.
We might have to preview the Giants-Commanders game next week, because that's actually a massive game. Not that I didn't know that, but it really is. Like, when you look at these teams' schedules moving forward, and then if for some reason the Giants do win this game on Sunday versus the Eagles, the stakes are even higher.
Yeah, I will be crying into my own.
You'll be there too.
I will be there.
I'm gonna text your wife and ask her to record you on the last drive.
We will 100% do that too, and then play it for everyone as she laughs at me and my pain.
All right, that's it for this Giants-Eagles preview. Be sure to subscribe and like this. Comment what you think the final score will be. We'll catch you guys next week with our regular mailbag episode. Go New York.
Boom.